Hi, guys, and welcome to our Model Meals Instagram Live with Paul of Pasturebird. I'm going to give everyone a second to join in, but just to introduce myself, my name is Danika Brysha. I'm the founder and CEO of Model Meals. So I've been slanging meals for 3.5 years now, which is kind of crazy. But thank you so much to everyone who supports us and follows us here and has been cheering us on from when we were a tiny little business out of my apartment and to where we have come now. So, really excited. I'm coming to you from Boston today. I'm here for some other work, and it is 8 p.m., so maybe some of you are on the East Coast as well. But hi, come to Austin. We're working on it. I promise you we are working on it. Hopefully it's not too far off. So we had actually a little update today on that, so we'll see. So today I have Paul from Pasturebird on, Paul Greive. I'm going to let him tell you guys a little bit about his story and how he ended up being a chicken farmer and what he's learned during that process. But I really wanted to have him on because I've learned so much from him about animal agriculture and just food sourcing in general. It can be such a mysterious thing these days, and labeling can be just really kind of BS. And so I've learned so much from him about how to look for the right things. So let me see if he's here. Oh, yes. Okay. So I think he's joining under Pasturebird here. So let me add, there we go. Perfect. I'm going to add Paul in. Let's see. Just give it a second here. Thank you guys for viewing live. I'm so excited. Hi, Paul.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Have you done Instagram Lives before?
I have done one on the farm before, and it was a outright failure. I have like horrible service out there, so we are trying to show the chickens. It was just like, it looked like Minecraft, like blocks of little poultry walking around.
Where are you? Your house?
Yeah, in our house.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this tonight. I'm really excited.
Of course, I'm stoked. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, I just got to see you guys the other day. The team came out to the farm and we saw Paul. It was probably my third farm tour, so it's been really cool to see your business grow alongside ours. But thank you so much for making the time to do this. I wanted to start, Paul, and by having you tell everyone a little bit about how you got started and how you became a chicken farmer. You're also a dad, obviously a businessman and a business owner. But how did this all get started? Because you have a story that I think a lot of our community can align to about making changes in your life to eat healthier and how it kind of led to this. So without further ado.
Yeah, for sure. Does it sound okay with this earpiece on?
It does. Your video's a little bit delayed, but it sounds fine.
All right. Hopefully it'll get better. My internet's not that great here. So
it's fine.
I started writing this blog post yesterday, and I was like, how did I get into this? It's so random, because I didn't grow up on a farm. I was like not from the country. I had no interest in chickens. I grew up in downtown Seattle, moved to Newport Beach for school, thought I would do that. I kind of went into the military just for fun out of college and wanted some adventure and to do something fun. And I started getting really sick. So yeah. I had bad arthritis at 22, 23 years old, and just knee pain and back pain, and every night in the ice bath, and in the Marine Corps we call it vitamin M, which is Motrin, because you're just sore all the time, and I just somebody said, hey, you got to try this paleo thing. CrossFit was getting big back then, 2007-ish, and I was not a believer, and I tried it, and I just felt totally different after that.
Yeah. So can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, cool. It might just be a little bit delayed. So you switched over to paleo, and you saw symptoms. You saw that sort of stuff just kind of disappear or start disappearing.
It just went away, man. 3 weeks in, I couldn't believe it. I was sleeping better. I didn't have any of the joint pain anymore. I had this thing where I couldn't breathe through my nose for 5 years, and I just thought, oh, I guess it's just what it is, And
well, that's crazy.
Oh my gosh, I can breathe through my nose again. It's crazy.
That's what I always say, and that was my experience with Whole30. Was we get so used to our normal and how we feel every day, are okay, that we don't realize there's another alternative. And it's incredible, the power of food. So okay, so yeah, you're feeling better now. What happens between that and I own thousands and thousands of chickens?
Yeah, totally. we started buying really good food, or like trying to. So we'd shop. We were living in Newport, and we'd shop at Whole Foods or whatever the best stuff that we could find, and like we're just trying to do right by our family. And pretty soon we started really studying what we were getting, and it was like, you're buying this thing that's cage free or free range, but actually like these birds lived inside their whole life, you know, or like you bought organic, but that organic chicken actually still came from a factory farm. Or like you got this antibiotic free chicken, but lo and behold, it actually had antibiotics like its whole life. And so I was just there like, why are we wasting all this extra money? Like, what are we doing? I want good stuff. And especially we had a baby, and it was like, you're going to feed your baby the best stuff you possibly can. So I just got pretty bummed out about it. And 2012, we were like sitting around as a family joking about getting some chickens for the backyard. And I was joking, at least. My brother-in-law, Rob, like disappears from the room, comes back 5 minutes later. He's like, hey, I just ordered like 50 chicks and they're going to be here in 2 weeks. And we're like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, do not know the first thing about chickens, you know?
And you're in a family, this is like a family home. You're not like on a farm somewhere.
No, it's in my in-laws' place. We'd always go out there for Easter or whatever, and we were sitting around for Easter, and it was like this big joke, like, oh, Rob just ordered chickens. Like, we're literally going to have 50 chickens in the backyard in 2 weeks, so we better figure it out.
And what happened? They arrived?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the story. So, like, because we'd never farmed before, we just went off instinct, you know? So, like, anybody that had farmed chickens would say, like, okay, you got to build a barn. You got to like put them inside. You got to give them this course of vaccines and drugs and antibiotics and all this stuff. But like, we didn't know any better. So I was just going off instinct. It was like, well, in the wild, like chickens live outside. They forage for grass and bugs and seeds and worms. Like, let's try to make it look as close to that as possible, you know? And of course, like they didn't get sick. They did really great. And we just raised them like the way that we wanted to eat them and feed our family pretty much. And people started calling and emailing and like ordering the chickens ahead of time and stuff. And pretty soon we're like, I think we have a farm, you guys.
So you took it from then and then decided, let's do, I mean, at what point did you have this moment of let's do this? Like, we're really doing this.
I'm like you. So I'm like the just perpetual entrepreneur. Like it's where my mind goes right away. So the first 50 chicks sold from a few posts on Facebook. And I was like, oh, dang, that's interesting. You know, maybe there really isn't like very many good birds out there or whatever. So the next month we tried 100 and then the same thing happened and then 200 and then 500. And then honestly, the moment where I was like, dude, this is a trip. So we had do you know Kate Shanahan, Dr. Kate?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so she's like the nutritionist for the Lakers and she speaks on a lot of the paleo, like Whole30 stuff. And she's really great. So she called and she's like, hey, I'm the team nutritionist for the Lakers. And we're like, okay, whatever. But then she really was. And she's like, I'm sourcing food for the team. Like, I want to come out to the farm and source you guys' product. And we were like, this little tiny, not even a farm, you know, just a backyard chicken thing.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay. And so we started working with the Lakers and the Dodgers. And it was like, dude, I think I want to quit my job as an accountant and like do this full time. It's so rad.
Oh my God. And you did.
Yeah, but not quite that easily. So like the business wasn't ready for it, but my wife and I moved from a great little place at the beach in Corona del Mar and like moved into the in-laws house, 1,700 square feet for 9 of us, like took no salary for 2 years and just brutal, man. But like, you know, you do what you got to do.
I know it well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you have been such a wealth of knowledge for me as we've navigated, like, you know, as a food business and wanting to source the best stuff. I have learned so much from you from the point, you know, from this experience of talking about labeling and talking about sourcing and talking about regenerative agriculture. So I guess where I wanted to start is kind of the basics. Like, what should we be looking for when, let's talk about chicken first, but sourcing chicken, what should we be looking for, and how can we trust that a label or something that we're buying is what it says it is?
Well, the first piece of advice I have is anybody wearing a blue shirt is just trustworthy right off the bat, you know, so you can trust anybody. Well coordinated.
Yeah, we planned this.
No, for real though, like the big thing that I always come back to is you can't trust any label. So like I always play this game, you name the label, I'll name the loophole. Like anything, grass-fed, free range, cage-free, antibiotic-free, local, pasture-raised, biodynamic, like every single one of them has loopholes. So as long as we're gonna like sit here and try to hope that label's covering everything, we're going to be up a rough time. You know, like it's going to be hard for us to figure it out like that. So the number one thing I always go back to is you have to figure out how to know your farmer, you know, and it sounds difficult and hard. I get that, but like, dude, it's never been easier than before. So to go back like one by one, so chicken, you have stuff like free range and antibiotic free and cage free and pasture raised. Like 99.999% of chickens are raised in stationary confinement barns. So you have like 600-foot long, 40-foot wide. You've seen the pictures, like 40,000 birds inside of there, and they're all walking on top of each other, and they eat where they poop, and they sleep where they poop, and it smells from like a mile away. It's bad, you know. That's like factory farming.
Yeah.
But all you have to do to make that free range is like cut a little door out on one side of the barn, and the birds don't ever actually go outside. But as long as they had access to the outdoors, like that's free range chicken, you know. And for me and you, it's like, that's not what we're thinking when you spend all this extra money to get free range chicken. Like you're thinking of an animal outside in the pasture, like enjoying, thriving, doing all this stuff. It's not the case, you know? The big thing that we push is like, it is pasture raised, but now I'm even seeing that label get totally bastardized left and right. So like, it is just another label. You can't really rely on it like anything else. But the idea of pasture raised is like, animals that live out on pasture, like 24/7, 365. You've been to the farm, you've seen it. Like they don't go into a barn and then out. Like the coop moves, so they're on grass 24/7 every single day. That lets them forage for grasses and bugs and seeds and worms. It lets them get tons of exercise and like chase little stuff around. That's like the best environment for chicken.
So there's actually a great question here, which I want to touch on. Gardening in Missouri, she said, is it true that antibiotic-free chicken can actually be fed antibiotics, but the meds are withheld, so the meds are at a low enough level to be called antibiotic-free? So let's talk a little bit about this topic of antibiotics. So hormones cannot legally be used in chicken, right?
Correct. That's right.
Okay, so hormones can't, but talk to me about antibiotics.
Yeah, so first of all, it's 100% true, what you just put on there. Gardening in Missouri, you're on it. I love it. Antibiotics, you can use antibiotics every single day throughout the course of a chicken's life and still call it antibiotic-free. And you go, what the heck? Like, how is that? You know, because you and me, again, we're thinking antibiotic-free means they didn't get drugs, and hopefully they didn't need drugs too, right?
Right. And what's
but
the
reality
back up real quick, Paul?
Yeah.
What would be a reason for giving chickens antibiotics in the first place? Why are they getting them in the first place?
The good reason to give chickens antibiotics is if they're sick, you know, and if you need to give them something in response to a disease or a sickness or bacteria, like we don't use any antibiotics no matter what, you know, but if you were going to use them, I see the justification of that, like fine, but that's not what they're doing at all. They're used prophylactically or preventatively because they know, just like gardening in Missouri, you put them inside, you coop them up, you keep them in this confined spot, you have to give them antibiotics to keep them alive and to keep them well. Antibiotic-free means that the meat itself tests below the FDA's parts per million threshold of antibiotic residue. And all that really means is that like the FDA sets some BS level of like, hey, as long as you're below this, then it's antibiotic-free. And it's just, it's really misleading, honestly. They know it. You know, these big companies, they know it.
Yeah. So I can buy a chicken labeled antibiotic-free, and it could have had antibiotics its whole life, but maybe they found a way to get to pass the test with the FDA to be able to market it that way.
Okay, maybe they lower it for the last 3 days or something like that, just to make sure it's not going to register. Or I wish it was that simple. In the meat industry, though, it's sinister. They'll be like, oh, I know this inspector is working on this day, so I'm going to lower it now. Or I know he's going to take the day off, so I'm going to just crank him up or whatever. It's really, really sinister in this industry. That's
nuts. So other buzzwords that we see on chicken, what are some other things that we'll see that are kind of bogus?
Well, the JLA key bar or whatever just said vaccines. So that's another one. Like antibiotics are also different than vaccines, are also different than drugs, are also different than synthetic chemicals, which are used as a feed additive. So like you could say antibiotic free and still have all like the vaccines, drugs, feed additives, all that stuff. But technically it didn't have the antibiotics in the meat. So that's one. We talked about free range a little bit. Somebody's asking about organic. All organic means like you could have the same like 600-foot barn, 40-foot wide, as long as the grains that the birds get inside of that are organic, certified by the USDA. That's pretty much organic chicken, you know. So all those nasty pictures that you see of the factory farm, that could easily be like organic chicken inside of there.
So Paul, just to clarify, as all the organic means is that they're eating organic food, organic grains.
There's some antibiotics that aren't allowed and some different things too, but really, if you and I walked into the same exact barn, like you wouldn't be able to tell the difference of organic or factory farm chicken. It's all the big companies, you know, it's the Tysons and the, you know, Foster Farms of the world that dominate organic production too.
Yeah, that's insane. Okay, so one of the things that was interesting to me was this label of vegetarian fed. And you know, I see that marketed on eggs and chickens and stuff. And you informed me that chickens are actually not vegetarian.
Yeah, it's kind of a trip, right? It's like saying it's like a vegetarian fed Tyrannosaurus Rex or something. It's like, what that goes back to though, is they used to feed chicken parts to chicken. And then the industry was like, no, we can't do that. So then vegetarian fed became this big term. Well, the problem with that is like chickens want to go out and eat bugs and worms. If you go in ever, like you've been to Hawaii or Thailand or places with wild chickens, that's like how they survive, you know? So to say that they're vegetarians, totally insane, because that means that they lived inside their entire life and never had access to a single bug or a worm or an insect throughout their entire life. And to me, that's like chicken torture, basically. They love that. That's like their full happy place, basically.
So, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the way that you guys raise these chickens, because I've learned so much about how you guys keep them, well, safe from the different conditions and predators and everything, but how you guys actually use regenerative agriculture, because I think some of the criticisms of the animal agriculture industry is how many people say it has such an impact on our environment. And of course, if it's being done in a really negative way. But can you talk to me a little bit about, or us about, a little bit more about what that means and how you guys do that?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with those people in spades. Like a lot of the vegan environmentalists and the activists, like, dude, I'm right there with you. Factory farming is the worst thing for the planet. It's the worst thing for like animal welfare. It's horrible for our health. I'm 100% on board with that. 99.999% of the time, but we're not the only ones either. There are other people out there using animals in the way that nature really designed, like not stationary, like moving animals across the field, getting them off their manure where they can use that same manure to fertilize those fields, and they give the animals fresh food and fresh bedding and fresh air every single day. That's absolutely awesome for the animals' welfare. It's amazing for the land. It's really nutritious. It's nutrient dense food. Like, there's a reason why nature does it that way, you know?
Mm-hmm. So what you guys have is, and you're rotating this sort of, is it called the coop?
Coop, yeah.
Yeah. So you rotate this coop that's spacious for them, whatever, and you rotate it, you're saying, to new grass every day?
Yeah, every single day. Rain? Yeah, so it's kind of looks like a greenhouse, but it has no floor on it because the chickens do need some protection against the elements. So like it was pouring down rain the day before you guys got there, or we'll get really hot sun. So they need some kind of protection, but the key is there's no floor on this coop. So 600 birds in each one, and this little coop just kind of like gets pulled with a truck each day to a new spot. So the birds are foraging for fresh food. They're sleeping on fresh bedding. Like, it's not something that we came up with, you know? It's the way that nature designed it. And it's the same thing that you'll see with grass-fed beef, or, I mean, grass-fed is another label that's totally BS, but the idea of grass-fed beef where they're using the electric fencing and rotating the animals, or go back even farther, like the bison, you know, huge herds of bison that would like eat the grass, poop on the ground, and then move to the next spot for 1,000,000 years. And that's what made this super, super fertile soil in the Midwest. Animals can be an absolute asset, but 99.999% of the time, they're a huge environmental liability. So our whole thing is bigger than just chicken, you know, like we want to provide really good food that's good for the community and good for people too.
So let me speak to everyone watching real quick. I want to open it up for questions, you guys. So we have about 10 minutes left, and Paul is here and happy to answer your questions. If you have them, you can put them in the comments, and then I'll monitor it and ask you, Paul. But in the meantime, while you guys are doing that, I want to ask about other animals as well, right? So you've talked to me a little bit about pork and a little bit about beef. You kind of just alluded to the grass-fed thing. What should we be looking for with these animals? Because different animals are supposed to eat different things, correct?
Absolutely. We always go back to species-appropriate diet, right? So like if you can follow the species-appropriate diet, then it's great. If you can't, then it's a problem. With cows and sheep, they're not supposed to have any grains. With chicken, they're an omnivore, so they can have meat and grains and vegetables and bugs. But if you go back to the cows and sheep, they have a rumen, which is an 8-part stomach that's meant to only ever have grass. So like where you guys source your beef from for model meals, it's exactly that same way. They're only eating grass their entire life. The farmer takes them in electric fencing. They kind of like herd them up to simulate that bison effect, and then they move them every couple of days to a new spot. And that gives them the best grass. It gives them like super high environmental benefit to the land and stuff. But yeah, you'll see stuff like grass fed. Every cow in the USA is grass fed. And people don't realize that, you know. The industry wrote the grass fed standards to basically say, well, you can raise them on grass, then put them in a feedlot and still call it grass fed. Well, that's like how it's done, you know. So you're not doing anything different that way. And then you have stuff like grass finished, because people say, oh, grass fed's bad. Let's use grass finished. Well, grass finished, they could still sit in a feedlot up to their ankles in manure, smelling for miles. But as long as they're getting grass pellets inside of the feedlot, like that's grass finished.
Mm-hmm.
It's not probably what the people who came up with that label thought of when they thought of grass finished. But the industry takes a look at it and they say, well, what's the lowest common denominator that we can pretty much solve for, you know? And good food producers aren't about that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me walk through some of these questions, Paul. Pirate Soccer said, soy in chicken food or no? Should chickens have soy?
So there's a big thing about soy right now. Soy is a very controversial topic. It's, you know, bad in a lot of ways in the US, the way it's been processed and stuff, but there is nothing inherently wrong with soy for chickens. I always go back to this. So we get a lot of people that say, well, I'm on you know, lectin-free diet, or I'm doing keto or paleo or whatever, like I'm doing no grains. And I go, well, the chicken has a gizzard. You don't, right? Like the gizzard is an organ inside the bird that sprouts those grains, it stone grinds those grains, and it makes it nutritionally available back to the bird. Kind of like the rumen of a cow. You and I would get really sick if we went out and ate grass, right? But the cow has this special stomach that can digest this grass and make it this super nutritious food. So just because you and I can't have soy doesn't mean chickens can't digest it and do really well on it. That being said, we raise a bird without soy, but it's more for people that just like don't really, you know, just trying to completely avoid any trace of soy in their diet whatsoever. Maybe somebody who's, you know, going through cancer or something like that. But no, chickens can thrive on a healthy soybean-based diet. Ours have corn and soybeans, but it's, you know, locally milled and it's grown in the US, and it's not full of a bunch of junk and additives and stuff like that. So yeah, they can do well on soy. It's okay.
Cool. So C Classic One was asking, where can I buy this type of chicken in Toronto, Canada? I'm just going to broaden that. Where can people buy this chicken in general? I know you guys ship. You guys do ship. Are you just nationally?
We ship nationwide, but I would say there are some places that you can find this. I don't know about Canada. Look up eatwild.com. Another one would be, yeah, eatwild.com is great. Look up the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association. And I know that sounds weird, and I know that you're in Canada, but there are some producers up there, and definitely check them out too.
Okay, cool. And like, just going back to what you were saying in terms of, because it's confusing, right? And I do believe in progress over perfection. Obviously, we want to make whatever small changes we can and what we can afford and what's accessible. But you're saying probably the best bet is if we do have a local farmers market, to go there, to get to know those farmers, and then or reach out to them on social media, or, I mean, is that kind of the best way?
It is, yeah. Just go talk to your farmer, man. Like, have him pull up his phone and show you pictures of the farm. Like, they love doing that, trust me. And it's not like you got to find a new farmer every week. Once you find somebody you like and you trust, like, that's your guy now, you know. And it's actually more fun than you think. One of my hacks has always been, like, ask them if they offer farm tours, and if they say no, run. If they say yes, you don't even have to go, but just the fact that they offer them is like a really good sign. Somebody saying find local. I'm all about local. I love it, but I would take quality over local pretty much any day of the week. So like, if you can find quality and local, I'm all about it. But just because of the farmer's market doesn't mean it's good. There's lots of imposters and fraudsters running around the farmer's market, buying chicken from the big guys and packaging it under their own labels and stuff. So it's a good place to start, but it's not the end all to be all or anything.
TL Chase or TI Chase was asking, besides Kuni Kuni, what is a good pastured pig? Do you know?
Yeah, so I love pigs, man. Kuni Kunis are great. They're really low impact on the pasture, and they can graze like a cow. But really any of your heritage breeds, like a Berkshire will do really great. A Duroc can do good. It's about how fast you can rotate them because they'll tear your field up into mud pretty quick.
They're so cute though. Erin was asking, yeah, so Erin was on our farm tour and I love that she brought this up. She said you shared a lot with us about eggs because obviously chicken and eggs go together very well.
Sure.
Can you share a little bit more about what to look for when you're sourcing eggs?
Yeah, I mean, I've been ranting on this. If you go to our Pasturebird feed the last couple of days, I've just been ranting because it gets frustrating, you know, like we sell pretty much, we're competing with these guys that are doing these huge barn production and calling it pasture raised. And we're like trying to do it the right way. And not just us. I mean, I kind of represent like a lot of pastured poultry farmers across the country. It gets frustrating for us, you know, and it's like this, we're competing on this little word. And it's like a whole different world of production. So just be careful with the eggs, man. Just because it says pasture raised, I'm not going to name names, but if they're in Whole Foods and it says pasture raised, be really careful. Down here in Southern California, there's a couple good ones. I love Alexander Farms. They're out of the Bay Area, kind of like up in Northern California, but they have some distribution down here. I also really love Louis Best out of San Diego, the guys you get your eggs from. I think they do a really good job too. There's a sliding scale too. So it's like, go off what you can afford, but my big thing is be educated about what you're actually getting. So you're not always going to get the perfect certified organic pasture raised everything all the time. But at least be educated so you know what you're buying, you know?
And you told us a little something about the yolks. A lot of people try and judge eggs based on the color of the yolk, but you told us something interesting.
Well, basically they started adding additives to the feed. So there's like a marigold supplement and there's some red chili powder supplement that they can feed the birds that artificially darken the yolks, because people like you and me think, oh, it's a nice orange yolk. It says pasture raised on the carton. It must be really good. And they have pictures of chickens running around on the grass, like on their website, you know, or their social media sometimes even. But like go to my post maybe like a week ago and you'll see this big barn in the background with like a chicken in the foreground. And I was like kind of breaking that down for people, what's actually going on there, you know?
Yeah.
But
you
again,
have such good information on there. I was going to encourage people your page is you do such a good job. I learned so much you're like one of those posts that I'm always eager to read because you learn so much. So if you guys I know this was a short video, but you guys should absolutely check out the Pasturebird page because there's more info. But I am going to use up the last 3 minutes we have. So let's keep talking.
Nice. Awesome.
So let me just see. Let me just go back to Gardening in Missouri. She said, do you guys overseed after the tractors move, or does the grass just regrow because it's not overgrazed?
Yeah, you don't want to overgraze. So if you're needing to reseed every single time you overgrazed it, we're trying to put just the right impact so it gets enough manure, but not too much. And there's lots of nice grass left behind the coop. So no, not overseeding behind the chickens. You shouldn't need to.
Awesome. What breed of chickens do you guys raise?
The meat birds, we do both Cornish cross, which is a cob breed, and we do a Freedom Ranger, which is a more slow growth breed. And then we are kind of secretly, I guess it's not that much of a secret now, but we are kind of getting into the egg business too. And we're going to do a whole bunch of different breeds for the eggs. That'll be fun.
I'm so excited you're doing that. Okay. I think the last question here, any tips for pastured farmers to grow their business?
Oh man, just have fun with it. You have to put your name out there. Don't spend all your time on the farm. You got to get out and get to know people. Like, try to set up processes and get to your first employee as fast as you can. It's really hard to be the same person that's doing all the farm chores and all the farmers markets and all the accounting and all the finance. Like, when you could just get to that at least one person, you know how this is too. Like, it's a game changer once you have somebody helping you out.
Yeah. And oftentimes they're better at things than you are, you know, and you have to kind of humble yourself and be
it's
like,
kind of depressing, but
right. So I can focus on that and let someone else step in. Okay. We have a couple more questions here. Kel CD said, do you slaughter the chickens on your farm or are they sent to another facility? So I wanted to ask about that too. Humane slaughtering. Like, what does that look like? Is there process?
It's super important to us, man. Humane processing is everything for us. You don't put all this effort into the production and then like throw it away with garbage processing. So we used to process everything on farm. When we hit, like, there's a federal level where that's not legal anymore. So once we hit that, we searched up and down through the whole state and hand selected like our #1 slaughterhouse that we work with. They do an amazing job. You could eat off of the tables. Like, it's so clean and so organized in there, and it's a smaller facility. So, you know, they handle the birds really well and stuff like that. Processing in the backyard's gnarly too. I think you've been there for some of the processing. It's a lot of work. It's
I
a
have. I
mess.
couldn't do it. I
Yeah,
babied out, but I watched you guys.
for sure.
But you got, I mean, I learned so much. And I think that's a really powerful thing to be able, if you're going to, I think it's a process of obviously like respect of the animal and our butchers we work with, which you work with as well with Electric City Butcher. It's so beautiful to see that the respect that they have for these animals and that you guys have, because obviously it's a spiritual thing and they're giving their lives to sustain us. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about people who are in animal agriculture like you guys and how the butchers are is showing that respect.
You have to respect that, and that's one of the things I love the most about Electric City is they take a nose to tail approach. So like they're not going out and just ordering just the boneless, skinless breast or something. They're like, no, we're going to take the whole bird. And if you go in there, if you're anywhere close to Santa Ana, like go in there and watch the care that they take for every single piece of meat that goes through there. It really is. It's like humbling for us. And it's like, yeah, it's this connection like farmer to butcher to chef to the consumer. It's like, that's the way it was, you know, that's the way it really should be still. And so reconnecting that with you and with Mike at Electric City has been rad.
Yeah, it's been so cool to get to know you and your family, and you know, Michael is our butcher where he helps us source all of our meat. So like Paul said, you can always stop by, and we're in the same location as the butcher shop. It was sort of one of those fate moments, and you guys aren't too far. Just about your farms are about an hour both directions. So
yeah.
Paul, thank you so much for taking the time. I could ask you a million more questions, but if you guys had something to ask and we missed it on this, you can shoot Paul a DM over at Pasturebird. I know you're really great about getting back to people, and he has so much
Don't say that.
information.
I don't know about that.
Well, you're really good about
I'll try.
educating,
I promise
so
I'll try.
maybe it'll just be on the page. Maybe you just have to scroll a little bit. Shut up. I'm sure
no, you can DM. And
it.
anybody who jumped on from our side, go follow Model Mills, man. My whole family orders their stuff. I'm serious. Like, we have the Model Mills truck come every single week. Our family loves it. We're all super busy and super crazy. So having like amazing meals that are better than what we could cook at our house has been such a blessing. And hello, Jerry Kent. Jerry Kent was our first ever restaurant order, and he's ordered diligently every single week since then. We just delivered to him
What
today.
restaurant?
He's Downtown Public and Public House in Temecula and Marietta.
Hell yeah. Wait,
you're the man, Jerry.
I think I just ate there. I did. I just ate there when I was visiting the farm store, and it was amazing.
It's so good. It's so good.
Jerry, I love you.
Jerry's the man.
Paul, thank you so much. Paul has 3 little babies to tend to, so thank you for being up late with us. Tell everyone hello, and thank you everyone who took the time to tune in and watch with us.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Danika.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.